Hello, book reading friends. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mel, and today I'm gonna give you some specific book recommendations. My favorite word of all time, recommendations. Love that word. My favorite word of all time. Anyways, point is, I asked you guys on Instagram, I popped up a story as I do, and I asked you guys to give me prompts, books that you are currently in the search of, books that you really want to read, but you don't know specific titles. So whether that's a specific scene, whether that's tropes, whether that's something very hyper specific that you guys are looking for. And today I come bearing answers to some of them, not all of them, I will admit. Let's get started. Now listen, this is how you know you found your people. And you guys asked me for a book that made me horny. I am not one to shy away from a challenge. So I'm gonna show you a book that not necessarily made me horny, but a book that has probably got the best sex that I've read about. Very first one, Learn My Lesson by Katee Roberts. This specific series by Katee Roberts is a smutty Disney retelling. I think it's the Villains series, I think it's called. I'm not even sure anymore, but this one features Hercules, Megara, and then Hades. Y'all can say I didn't tell you. Smut, top tier. Threesomes, top tier. Polyamory, top tier. And I think this book and the next one I'm gonna talk about not only deliver on the smutty side of things, but also the emotional aspect of it all, of admitting that you are willing and open and wanting to be in a relationship with more than one person. And so there's much more to look at than just the sex, I think, which is great. And the second one is Give Me More by Sarah Kate. This is the third book in the Salacious Players Club. Now, all of these books stand on their own. Obviously, you will see tidbits from the other books, but each book can be read individually. Now, I've read the first one and this one. However, the reason why I'm bringing up the third one is because really the sex in this, clap those cheeks, honey. One of those books that, yes, the smut is good, but it also delivers on that very emotional front of, again, admitting that you want to be in a relationship with more than one person. And I think why this book does that so well is because it establishes a relationship between an already married couple and the best friend of the male counterpart in that marriage, who has essentially really been a part of this marriage for a really, really long time, but they've never really, fooled around. They've never really slept with each other. And there's a lot of internalized phobias and isms that the main male character has to work past in order to admit that this is a situation he wants to be involved in. And so I loved the way that the book explores that, because sometimes it's not as easy as, let me just sleep with all these people and have a really fucking great time. Sometimes there is more barriers to walk past. I will say, top tier. You guys asked and I'm delivering. Some of you guys asked for a book that I've got multiple copies of. So the very first one, you guys know, is one of my favorites, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I've got The Arc of Addie LaRue, which is the copy I initially read back when the book had come out in 2020, when I started BookTube. That was a really long time ago. And then the anniversary edition of Addie, because I didn't have the finished copy, and this one in particular, because it's an art, none of the art that is displayed in any of the copies of the finished Addie LaRue are displayed in the Arc. So this is incomplete, and I really wanted a copy that had the whole moment. And when they released this one, I just knew I had to buy it. It's white, it's beautiful, it's got these stenciled edges, and it just felt like a really pretty, moment. It's got some end papers as well. It's signed by V.E. Schwab. Another book is Book of Night by Holly Black. This is only because I had the Book of the Month version, and this was a deliberate purchase also because I wasn't signed up to Fairy Loot Adult at the time. I decided to get this one. The foiling is really, really pretty. The naked book as well is very stunning. You've got also end papers, and so I just thought that getting this would be quite nice, and I found it on Pango Books for a really nice price, which is really the only reason why I did it. And then last but not least, this could double, this is like a double answer, but I just didn't want to pull up the other one because it's kind of stuffed in my bookshelves. I have 3 editions of Throne of Glass. Like the very first book, I've got the collectors, I've got the Nerdy Ink dust jackets, and then I've got the collector's edition. However, decided to show you my 3 copies of ACOTAR because I also have 3 copies of this. I've got the paperback, which I think this was released last year, I'm pretty sure, because I know this paperback is like rather new. They did it with the redesign of the covers. Then I've got the collector's edition of ACOTAR, which is honestly very, very pretty. A lot of foiling. Oh my god, I just knocked myself on the head. But you've got little Miss Feyre there with a little bow and arrow. And then I decided to get special dust jackets for ACOTAR because I got FOMO. And that's the only reason why I got these, because I am craving the Illumicrate dust jackets, but people are out here really selling those for like $1,000. And listen, I neither got the time to fight that out or the money to actually buy those, nor am I crazy, because I'm not gonna do that for Miss Janet. Next up, we've got a book that made you buy merch. Now, I don't typically buy merch for books. I typically don't buy any items really affiliated to books beyond a special edition or like a special dust jacket. Don't really do that. However, have to admit, Miss Daisy Jones and the Six really made me do that. It's also just one of my favorite books of all time. One of my most annotated books as well. Just loved the crap out of this one. The blues rock vibes of this, the Fleetwood Mac flashbacks this gives me. We know that that is the inspiration for this book, the relationship between Lindsay and Miss Stevie Nicks, and also exactly what leads to the separation of a rock band in an era where rock bands were really at their prime, really thriving in the 60s, in the 70s, and all of the nuances of the music industry and the drugs and the partying and the sex and all of the overindulging in things that aren't necessarily healthy and being in toxic relationships and meeting the right people at the wrong time or the wrong people at the right time. It's just, I love this book. It's so good. If you like rock, this is very nice. There's some really great odes in here to actual real bands and songs and musicians, which is great. And it just feels very real. It's told in oral history method, so it's not necessarily written in prose more than it is written in an interview format. But I think the interview format really gives you enough imagery that you can really picture the scene as it's being told. And there's also so many inconsistencies between statements that really adds to the ultimate question of why exactly did this band break apart? So I just love this book so much. It's so good. I didn't know that this was a thing. I saw it and I got it and I love it and I wear it all the time. So I decided to get this sweater right here that says Aurora World Tour, which is the tour that happens in Daisy Jones and the Six. It really makes me feel like I bought this on tour if I were to go watch them. Something similar to Twilight, but more adult. Now for this one, I am going to go with a probable, obvious answer, and I'm just gonna say A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I think when I personally analyze Twilight and kind of the tropes and things that it includes, this kind of overlaps with a lot of things that people have either critiqued, liked, or disliked in Twilight, particularly the relationship between our main character Diana and the resident vampire Matthew. He is assertive, he is possessive, and he always wants to be in control. He also knows a lot because he has been around for a really long time. But I think where this book goes completely differently to Twilight, I mean, beside the fact that it's adult, so it's, you know, the nuances of the relationship are different, I think is the fact that this is very deeply rooted in history, chef's kiss, all of the goodness, because also Deborah Harkness is a historian, which just adds to that level of realism to all of the period stuff she is writing in here. And then also adding to that, it's very scientific in a way that I didn't expect. Listen, I don't know if I understood all of it, but it sounded sexy and I fucking loved every second of it. This one was honestly really fantastic and it just got me hooked. I didn't expect to love this book as much as I did, but if you guys are into Twilight and you just need a little something spicy and that's actually good, then maybe just go for A Discovery of Witches. A book that made you feel seen. Now for this one, I'm pretty sure, I should have double checked, but then I'm kind of lazy sometimes and I didn't double check, but I'm pretty sure in my last video I talked about The Poet X. If I didn't, let me just throw that out there. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. However, if not that, let me just mention a recent favorite, and that is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. First of all, it's got a lot of social commentary, as a lot of Silvia Moreno Garcia's books do, if not all of her books. She is really good at talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about, and she is not afraid of calling out colorism in Central American countries and Latin American countries and Latin culture in general. She is not afraid to call out racism and classism and all of these disparities basically that exist in every single country. It's not only exclusive to Mexico where a lot of her books are set in, but it's like a universal language that a lot of people speak. And so I really like how she sort of analyzes all of these very important things societally and historically, and how she breaks it down for the reader in a way that, yes, it's, you know, you kind of get the message very clearly and it's just very forward in the way that she writes it, which is fantastic, but it's also very beautiful and it sort of makes you introspect a lot. And so in that regard, I fucking love that, because there's not a lot of books I've personally read that I feel dare say that, because it's something that I feel in Latin culture, a lot of people are afraid of admitting that it's still a very deep issue in our culture. But then also so the deity talk in this one, listen, she just gets it. She just gets the experience of not necessarily being affiliated to any specific religion, but just believing in your own thing and believing in your deities and really figuring out what spiritualism means to you, and really, I guess, like discovering that what has been pushed onto you as, you know, as generations have passed is not necessarily the truth of what you believe. So I really, really like that. I think she really captured the questioning of religion and spiritual figures really, really well in this one, and that made me feel very, very seen. A book that captures the autumn vibes. And listen, I've got the perfect answer for you because I'm never wrong. These two books right here are books that I just feel you can take to a coffee shop and order your Thai latte or order your coffee and just sit there for hours on end and just read and consume these and really just devour them. You guys will be tired of hearing me talk about this book. It's Middle Game. Wow, Mel, you've never talked about Middle Game before. I love this book, though it's to nobody's surprise. I also think the theme of godhood in this one is very, very interesting, though it's vastly different to, let's say, Gods of Jade and Shadow. Experimentation, alchemical experimentation on literal, like, fetuses, babies, to try and find a method to literally incarnate certain doctrines or certain really mystical concepts in order for these kids to walk the improbable road, reach the impossible city, and achieve godhood. And so that part of it is super, super interesting to me. I think this book, more than anything, really is about the connection between our two main characters, which are twins, Roger and Dodger, and really that bond that they have even through time, through even not knowing each other very well at the start of the book. And there's this sense of almost inevitability in this book where you don't really know what's going to happen up until obviously it does, but the way there, the walk there is very uncertain. And the book also has this sort of time-lapse repetition where you kind of see them wonder why they got things wrong again and whether things are going to go right next time. And so I think that that part of the inevitability is really great because you see them getting it wrong a million times. And so I love this. It's super tense, but it's also beautifully written. It's very, not necessarily purple prose, but I do think it's sort of poetic in its own nature. I think it's that existentialism within the book that makes it just like deeply beautiful. So I love this. I wish I could reread this book a million times over. And then the other one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Again, it's sort of kind of the same theme here, which I think works so well for the fall, where you read about people kind of wondering how life could have gone differently and either accepting or not the outcome of life and then figuring out where they go from there. And I think that's very much the theme of Before the Coffee Gets Cold. You've got a coffee shop that's very, very old, and said coffee shop contains magic, and so people can travel back in time to meet up with their loved ones. The only rule is that they obviously have to have been at the coffee shop at some point in time, and people essentially do go back in time to rectify mistakes that they've made in the past, or even just to see their familials for the final time because they just need that closure. And so I find that the human emotion aspect of this was captured really beautifully. It's full of longing and passion and regret, and just it's really emotional. It really, really is, but it's really beautiful. And I also love how all of the stories, because they are short stories, how they're all vastly different, but at the end of the day they all kind of interconnect in this ultimate message of, if I can't really change my present, then can I do something that affects my present self's future? And I think it's that question that also makes this book so interesting. I love it. Again, I feel like existentialism is very much the vibe for the fall. A book that features a sapphic romance, and let me double it up for you. How about a sapphic vampire romance that is also polyamorous, and that also fits very much the vibe for the fall, for spooky season, and that is A Dowry of Blood, because everybody needs to experience this at least once in their lives. This book is so fucking good. I love this. It's so short. It's also epistolary writing in a way. It's not epistolary in the way that Dracula is epistolary. However, it is at times addressed to Sir Dracula. It is essentially a letter to him and all of the reasons why our main character absolutely fucking hates him. And you know what? As she should. But also all the ways that she got herself to a point of healing and actually experiencing a love that is not toxic, in a relationship that actually serves all of the people involved and that ultimately makes her feel her happiest, which I love. And so that part of this book is beautiful. I think it also has a lot of commentary about these toxic cycles cycles of abuse that a lot of women experience, and how at times it's not nearly as noticeable as one would like it to be, and then also kind of escaping that, but it being a tougher journey because sometimes it's really not as easy as saying like get out of it. And so I really love the nuance behind this book and how it really just explores all of those complex emotions in a way that feels realistic in a very fantastical setting, but the gothic vibes, the cozy vibes, the sapphic vibes, I love it so much. Next up, we've got a book that made you love the side characters more than the main characters. And I've got A River Enchanted. Sidra and Torin, I absolutely love them. I think even more than Adara and Jack, they were cool, they were fine, their romance was great, but I think it was really the familial commentary and the angst of Sidra and Torin that really made me fall in love with them. Sidra is just one of those people that is incredibly devoted to everything she loves, and in this case, it really is Torin and his daughter Macy. However, she is not Macy's mom, but she considers her her mom, and she just loves her, and she will literally go to the ends of the earth in order to protect her and save her. I absolutely love that. And then also just the angst, because these two have been together for a really long time, yet they have not outwardly admitted that they love each other, which is just such an interesting dynamic. And I think I really love, I know, I love fantasy books that feature commentary on family, motherhood, and relationships in a way that feels real, even though the fantasy, even though the setting is so fantastical. And in this one, you've got a marriage that is sort of in turmoil, even though it doesn't really appear like that outwardly to other people, but because we get their POVs, we get to observe it in a bit more close quarters. And so we really get to see these two talk things out and try to work things out in a way that feels real and substantial to them, because they don't want their partnership to end, but they know that there is a lot of strain in this relationship. And so I love them. I think as side characters, they brought everything that needed to be brought into the story. And I think even more, again, than Jack and Adara, they really brought that sentimental value into this. A book with lots of yearning, and Boo Boo, I got you. I got you with this one. All Roads Lead Here by Marina Zapata. For all those girlies out there that are just like me and love the single parent trope, I am here to deliver. There is just something so distinct about the yearning with the single parent trope, because you know that the person is not going to fully commit up until the love interest has got some sort of relationship with the kid, because the kid is always at the forefront of their mind. They are their first priority. And so that to me is sort of unbeatable. And this one really delivers. What works so well about this is the fact that Rhodes, he was, yes, angsty, but he never really showed any sort of hate towards the main character, which is something I experienced in The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, The Wall of Winnipeg. But that one I didn't like, okay? Marina Zapata did not hit with that one. But this one though, I really like how at first he really wasn't open to the situation because of the circumstances. It's not that he is not open to her as an option, it's just that the circumstances leading up to that, he's just like, why the fuck are you in my house? Like, get the fuck out. And so I love that part of it, because yes, he doesn't really want to communicate with her, but he doesn't hate her. It's sort of breaking down all of these walls and all of these barriers in order to connect with him that I really, really love. And I think Marina Zapata is always really good at, again, making a really slow burn story work, but also at including tidbits of both of the characters' lives to really build up their character for us to really understand why they behave the way they do and how that immediately directly affects the relationship that they're trying to build in the story. And so I love that it's not only the romance impacting whatever happens, but it's also their own individual personal struggles and outlooks and beliefs and everything. A book with a complex female main character. Let me introduce you to my year of rest and relaxation. Hello. I absolutely adored this book. I've never experienced anything quite like this. I think it's unique for a myriad of reasons. First of all, we never really know the character's main name. Yes, Mel. We never really know the character's name. That's one unique factor going into this. This entire book happens in a medicated haze. So our main character is really and truly out of it for most of the story. And that medicated haze is a result of her wanting to deal with her problems through sleep. She thinks that if she has an entire year of rest and relaxation, she will wake up and all of her problems will be magically solved. And yet she finds out that through this medicated haze, she will be forced to deal with all of this trauma and all of these memories that she's kind of looked up and she really doesn't want to analyze, look at, or heal from, and yet she will find herself forced to very unexpectedly because of the decisions she has made. And so that part of it, I think, again, it's got this sense of inevitability in that regard, but also it's just a deep exploration into depression and anxiety and trauma in a very unconventional way, I think, just because, again, I've never read a book quite like this. Very stream of consciousness. It's very, again, hazy in the way that it's told, which I love. Also, I think ultimately this is the exploration of a character that by all intents and purposes, by societal standards, if you were to look at her from the outside, you'd think that this is a person who's got everything and therefore she needs to be happy because she's got a nice apartment, she's got that elite Ivy education, she has got the friend, got the boyfriend. When you peel back all of those layers of what she presents out into the world, it's much more nuanced than that. And so it really sort of is never judge a book by its cover because you never really know what's going on internally. And the way that Atessa Moshfegh really explores that is wonderful. A book that features rivals solving a mystery. And I'm gonna go also very cozy fall for this, and I'm gonna go Stalking Jack the Ripper, but they are very much rivals. Like, they are very much butting heads all of the time. It's two intellectual people really going at each other's throats because they think that they are always correct, and that leads them to eventually partnering up and, you know, kind of solving this whole thing together in some way, shape, or form. I would say this one for the fall is a really, really nice read. It's very intriguing, and I also think that the plot twist at the end is good. It's very good. I will also say Kerri Maniscalco is an author that, despite not having immense amounts of description in her books, just because, you know, they're short, doesn't really allow for all of that, still has a way of having these insane sensory details. Found myself gagging a lot in this book. Listen, there's a lot of opening bodies up and exploring everything that's in there, and to be quite honest, it was fucking nasty. A book that is focused on character, and I've got one for you. It's literally a character study. That is Tokyo Ueno Station. And I think the more I think about this book, the more I love it, and the more I want to reread it and annotate it. It's such a short book. I think this is literally, it is 180 pages, super short, and the amount of things the author is able to include in here to explore our main character is absolutely wild to me. It really is just one of those books that screams, this is what you can do when you're intentional, the words you're putting into your writing. It's honestly top tier. And so we've got Kazu, our main character. He is a homeless man that has just recently passed away. However, he finds himself sort of stuck in this limbo where he is particularly haunting Tokyo Ueno Station. Haunting is a very loose word I'm using, but he is very much staying there. He is very much a resident of the station, if you will. And so this story really explores all of the events of his life and all of these sort of parallels and really coincidences that connect him to the Imperial family. And particularly, I think in that there's this really great commentary about class and, you know, being an elite and having money and privilege and all of these disparities that, again, one experiences in a single country where if you were to compare one to the other, it's just, again, it's vastly different. And so a lot of this happens through the parallel of him with the Imperial family, because we get to see a lot of instances that are happening at the exact same time that are exactly the same, and how both of these people, both of these families are able to deal with them differently because of who they are and what their economic status looks like. And so that part of this book is very, very interesting. And I think at the core of this really is the fact that he is in death no more or less visible than he was as a homeless man, and how despite this station and the park adjacent to it is full of people and it's full of buzz and people are walking by and talking and going about their lives, how these people are constantly ignored. He is a very complex character because really at the end of the day, I think in death, it really is the only time in his life that he's been able to sit and introspect about what his life looked like and all of the regrets he had but wouldn't admit at the time, and now how he yearns to sort of atone, but he isn't really able to do that because he is not in the land of the living anymore. A great murder mystery that has a romance in it. Let me introduce you to In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I can't wait to read The Last Housewife. It's gonna be so freaking good. Need to buy it, need to read it, need to experience it, need to eat it up. This one though, you've got a murder mystery. It takes place several years in the past. It does have dual timelines. So you've got the time in the past with a group of friends that were all obviously attending the same college, and how one of them dies, is literally murdered. And then we've got the present time as these people are trying to figure out exactly what happened to their friend. And we particularly follow this story in the scope of our main character. His name is Jessica. And Jessica is so very deeply interesting. This girl is so freaking flawed. She is just so messed up, and I love her so much. A very deep inferiority complex that ultimately ends up with her believing that she is superior to everybody else, and now that she is out of college because of what she has done with her life, and the only reason why she does certain things is because she wants to flaunt her life to others. Just reading about the psyche of that was so very interesting. There's some really fucking amazing quotes in this book. There were also times where this book gave me Black Swan vibes, with those sort of mental lagoons where the main character is trying to figure out exactly what happened and trying to place all of these events. And the romance in here, listen. You know when an author makes you kind of ship something that's immoral? I'm not saying I did, but I did. We are nearing the end, friends. Book that is just vibes. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss is a gothic retelling that features a lot of not necessarily characters that you know, but daughters of characters that you may know. So we've literally got the daughter of Declan Hyde. We've got the daughter of Dr. Moreau. It's very interesting. Then you also have got characters that you do know, like Sherlock Holmes and Mr. Watson, which just adds to the coziness of the story. I genuinely think this is a book perfect for the fall. It really just screams coziness. It also has these sort of oral history method interruptions, which I think is very interesting because I've never seen that before. The entire book is written obviously in prose, but then you've got these dialogues in between of the characters sort of interacting with each other as they write the book, which I think is a really cool inception. And obviously there is a mystery to solve in here. Sherlock and Watson are helping, and I think it is once more a cozy mystery, but with a lot of comedic elements to this. But I think what makes this an even better experience is that you get to learn all of these girls' stories and exactly why they're not necessarily flawed, but why they're genuinely like going through all of this trauma after experiencing what they did. But then again, going into the nitty-gritty of what they went through and exactly how that all brings them together into this partnership called the Athena Club. I love them so much. They're so cute. A book that has academic rivals. And I don't know how many times I have to mention this for you guys to read this book, but it's called Kiss the Sky by Krista and Becca Ritchie. If you love reality TV, this book has got the reality TV trope. It's also rich people drama, and who doesn't like to read about that? I love to watch Housewives. I will read about rich people too. And I love this so much. We've got academic rivals, again, two very rich individuals. We've got Rose, who has her own fashion line. However, a very big scandal kind of put people against her family, and now nobody is really buying clothes. She is trying to get into people's good graces, and she finds that one of the only avenues to do that is through having a reality TV show that shows the ins and outs of their lives. And then on the flip side of that, we got her boyfriend, Connor. Connor, who I fucking love because he is everything Christian Grey wishes he could be, and this 20-year-old is fucking doing it all, okay? He just walks into a room and like everybody falls quiet because that's the power he commands, okay? So point is, he is also like a mogul. His mom is like, she's got her own company as well, and he is hoping to inherit that and run it one day. And there's a lot of drama in this. They are both incredibly smart. I know that the start of their relationship is seen in the first series, which is the Addicted series. However, I really have no interest in reading those. I just skipped straight into their book, which is Kiss the Sky, and I would very much recommend, because the way that they constantly go at each other, again, intellectually, kind of challenge each other, and they constantly have like these little sort of debates. Very hot, if I do say so myself. Brains are really hot. And then last but not least, a book with no romance. And can I talk about The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake? Because I will. Oh my god, I cut my hair in the book. That is atrocious. Anyways, The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake has no romance. It's very sultry and it's very sexy. And there is, you know, there's kisses and there's sex and there's this and that. However, nothing ever that happens explicitly on page, first of all. Hands are full with hating each other, okay? They're good. They don't need the romance. They don't need the entanglement. So the focal point of this story really is all of these individuals hoping to try out for the Alexandrian Society. However, what they don't know is that only 5 of them can make it to the end, and then the other one You know what I mean? Just girly things. I think it reminded me of Middle Game in the sense of there is, again, a sense of time and inevitability in this. Time travel is also included in here. Olivia Blake's writing is fucking stunning, beautiful to read, easy to read, flies by, super gripping, super interesting. You need to read this. Though TikTok talks about this all the time. They got it covered, okay? I'm just here to reaffirm that for once, TikTok is right. And that is it for today, friends. Those are all the books I'm gonna talk about today now that you're short of books because I talked about 20. I am always here to deliver. However, I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, give it a massive thumbs up down below. And if you've read any of these books, do let a girl know down in the comments. And if you have any books that would fulfill any of these prompts, do let me know too. If you've got a book that has got like great sex, a slow burn romance, lots of yearning, a book that is like perfect for the fall, autumn season, if you've got a book that is like focused on character, listen, all of them, just yes, give me all of them. Give me all of them in the comments. I am ready and willing and able. And I just want to see if any of those recommendations I already own or if I need to pick anything up because I'm never opposed to buying more books. So do let me know. And if you've reached the end of the video, let's just leave some fall leaves emojis down in the comments. It fits the vibe, it fits the mood. I know fall starts technically on September 22nd, but it's already fall in my head, and that's all that matters. I am establishing the mood. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. I am constantly uploading videos that I'm sure you do not want to miss. And if you want to support the channel further, I do have a Patreon. There are a bunch of exciting things happening over there as well. We've got readathons, we've got a Discord server, we've got a book club, we've got exclusive videos, exclusive live shows, exclusive posts, movie nights. There is much that we do over there that I am sure you want to be a part of. So you can join us over at the link at the top of the description. You will also find all of my social medias down there. So in case you want to find me anywhere else, that is all down there, just so you know. And yes, all of you guys, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye.